The following is a presentation of the Beltup Sports Media Network.
Here comes pressure, throws it to Eckler on the screen. He's got a block to the 10, to the 5, into the end zone.
High pass. Did Williams make that catch? My goodness.
For a first down, Herbert with time. Now running out of time. Throws on the run. Down the sideline. Caught in the end zone. Keenan Allen for the touchdown.
Throws, and again it's intercepted. And that's Asante Samuel.
Here's another one. Watch out.
How did it feel when Derwin James absolutely powerbombed the out of you on national television?
You're listening to the Shock Therapy Podcast with Tyler Lawrence and Zach Alfers.
And we're back with another episode of the Shock Therapy Podcast. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Chiefs. And I was just talking to you before the show started. I think the Chiefs are better than they were last year and they won the Super Bowl. It feels strange that a Super Bowl team can actually still get better. But I feel like that's what happened, man. So, let's talk about it a little bit. Do you think that this Chiefs team is going to be better than they were last year? Could they win more games?
I mean, with the Chiefs, they're approaching that point where I think they've already 5 straight AFC title games, 2 Super Bowls in 4 years. You already have a dynasty in place. One more Super Bowl, and you're going to have to start talking about this team as one of the best teams of all time, regardless of sport. It's getting to the point where it's boring. They're consistently going to win double-digit game wins. I think they're bringing enough of their core back that it's going to be business as usual over there in Kansas City. And at a few positions, I think they got better. I think that defense has a lot of young guys who had really good rookie seasons coming back. I'm talking about that secondary. I think they got better up front on the defensive line. I think you're missing out on letting Mecole Hardman and Juju Smith-Schuster, who was your leading receiver last year, walk. But I think it's whenever you have Andy Reid and Mahomes, you're going to win 13, 14 games. I think that's kind of just their baseline right now. I don't think we're going to see an undefeated team in a while, but the Chiefs are as close to being that I think that we have in this league today.
I get the fact that, you lose Juju Smith-Schuster, who I think led them in receiving yards. I'm having trouble pulling up stats right now. You lose Mecole Hardman, who really his only legitimate role was as a decoy in the deep part of the field, as a gadget player and as a kick returner, punt returner. I feel like Sky Moore 100% replaces everything Mecole Hardman can do, right? He's that same type of receiver built in that same mold. Juju Smith-Schuster, yeah, you lost, but you end up going and drafting Rashee Rice, who's a bigger version of what he can do. I mean, their wide receiver core is still stacked. And they also traded for Kadarius Toney in the middle of the season last year. They still got speed with Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Sky Moore. And then they got more of a prototypical wide receiver, Rashee Rice. Let's not forget they also got Justin Ross, Emir Smith-Marset. John Ross is on this roster. They might not have a true wide receiver one, a top 15, even probably top 20 wide receiver in the NFL, but they've got more than enough for Patrick Mahomes to go and just light up the scoreboard. And let's not forget that they still have Travis Kelce.
I think that's big beyond just what Travis Kelce can do for his own game. He makes guys around him better. On top of that, Mahomes doesn't need an elite receiving core to get it done. They led the league in scoring and offensive production last year, with Juju Smith being their most productive receiver. And then you got Andy Reid, one of the most talented offensive minds the NFL has ever seen. So he is going to get those guys plenty of touches. We're not even talking about their versatile pass catching running back room. Their offense is going to be fine. I'm honestly worried about the defense, which has kind of been middle of the pack to the bottom of the league during this last 5-year span. I think they're going to have a top 10 defense looking at just the names on paper.
I mean, they're going to be a whole year further along with all these young types of players. I mean, L'Jarius Sneed came in as a rookie and was like super hot, like really, really good. They ended up moving him to the slot, and he has a borderline all-pro season. George Karlaftis looks like Joey Bosa, probably not quite as far along, but like he's that type of like big power rusher who can play A+ as a run defender. Nick Bolton, they picked up Drew Tranquil, Trent McDuffie, Brian Cook. Like this is such a young defense. They can only get better. Let's talk a little bit about Patrick Mahomes before we really like get down and kind of did like a broad, expectations. We know that the Chiefs have the best team in the NFL last year, and they didn't really lose a whole lot of pieces. Patrick Mahomes is that guy. Like he's the best player in the NFL. He's probably going to be voted like the number one most exciting player. Probably going to get that 99 Madden rating, which has been a big hot topic this whole week with the Madden ratings drop. He's Patrick Mahomes, and he does a little bit of everything. And then he's also paired with the best head coach for like what Patrick Mahomes does. Nobody can utilize his strengths better than Andy Reid with all the misdirection and stuff that they do. He takes shots. He's not afraid to throw the ball up and really air it out. Even in situations where, maybe it wasn't the best decision, he still does it. He makes a lot of those throws look routine. Talk about the passing attack, talk about Patrick Mahomes, talk about Andy Reid and why Andy Reid is so good at utilizing Patrick Mahomes' skill set to really be so creative with his play calling.
Well, I mean, that's a lot to chew off. I think first off, Patrick Mahomes is the best player in football. I don't think it's close. You got a lot of really superstar quarterbacks emerging right now. I think they're all playing catch up to Patrick Mahomes. What that guy has done, his short time in the league, already being talked of as one of the greats, and he looks like he has plenty left in the tank. Talking about Andy Reid, this guy, every year there's some new type of wrinkle added to the offense, but it's never wasted. It's always about finding your players' strengths and using that, game planning that, setting that up. And he does that better than anybody. That's why I'm not worried about the lack of superstar strength at the top of that receiving room, because with that offense, with Patrick Mahomes getting them the ball, you get a lot more wiggle room because he's going to scheme guys open. He's going to, when you don't have a great slot defender, you're not really that equipped to stop perimeter runs. He's going to run those types of schemes in your face until you stop it. And he's really one of the best at halftime adjustments and like middle of the season adjustments. I think something that definitely the Chargers have been lacking the last couple of years. Would love some of that, being able to adapt when things aren't going right for you. I think that's something the Chargers have a lot of room to grow in that regards.
So he's a former MVP, right? Last year they go 14-3. They really just blew the NFL off. Like the AFC West had no chance. Realistically, like nobody even came close to beating the Chiefs for the AFC West championship. Probably going to see that again next season. He was first team All-Pro last year, 5,250 yards, 41 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. I mean, he is the real deal. Like he is the best player in the NFL for a reason. And he's, as long as Patrick Mahomes is there, they don't need a top wide receiver. They don't need a Travis Kelce, because he can do so many different kinds of things in conjunction with the play calling that he has with Andy Reid, that he can overcome some of the weaknesses of having the star wide receiver, right? Travis Kelce is the star wide receiver. I mean, he had 1,300 yards last season, 12 touchdowns. Like that's insane for a tight end. Every year it seems like we only have like 2 or 3 tight ends go for over 1,000 yards. and he just does it routinely. And he's 33 years old. He's still doing it, which is insane. They did lose Juju Smith-Schuster, who finished second in targets, 101 targets, 78 receptions, just shy of 1,000 yards, only 3 touchdowns. Wasn't really their big touchdown type of guy. But, I mean, they think that they have the pieces in-house with Kadarius Toney, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Sky Moore to overcome that loss. And I think that they've got more than enough on this roster. I'm really interested to see if Justin Ross ends up shining, because like reports during camp last year before he got hurt was that he looked like the real deal. Like he looked like a really, really good player, played at Clemson. He's the player that hurt his back, was expected to be a first-round draft pick, and then has that spinal injury that really scared a lot of teams away. And to the point where like Justin Ross didn't get to play last season because he was still rehabbing that. Is this wide receiver room good enough for them to really take that step forward? I mean, they said goodbye to 2 really good wide receivers now in back-to-back seasons. I guess is Kadarius Toney a wide receiver 1? And that's kind of the other part of that, right? Is they thought enough of him to trade for him, and also, give him those targets eventually next season.
Yeah, I kind of see. No, I think it's similar to the Denver receiving core, where there's a lot of depth. You're just missing that lead guy. I look Kadarius Toney as a solid number 2. I think Marquez Valdes-Scantling is a solid number 2. I love Sky Moore as, that kind of gadget slot receiver role, which he played so well in college. I think he was kind of held back with some injuries here and there in his rookie season, but I definitely expect him to grow into that role. And then you got Rashee Rice, who I think is a phenomenal talent in his own right. It's going to take some time to come along, but I think he'll be there. I think it's one of those things where you got so much star power on the other skill position groups that you're all right with just having a bunch of 2s in house. And I think that's what the Chiefs have, is just a bunch of solid number 2s and some great depth, lacking that number one threat. But I think you got that in Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, I think, is more versatile than what his possession as just a tight end. Like, this guy is one of the best pass catchers. He can line up in the slot. So I think that luxury allows you to not necessarily have a number 1, but still be able to produce and have a productive offense. So I think they're going to be just fine.
Let's talk a little bit about the running back situation. I know the big hot topic before we talk about Isaiah Pacheco. I think it was Matt Miller posted a tweet stating something about, you draft a running back. If you pay him on his rookie contract, if he's good, you franchise tag him for a year. And then the next season you draft a running back, right? So this whole issue, and it's been a really hot topic, and I get it, right? Like, running backs are the most injured position in, any sport, right? Like they take the most hits, the beatings, and they're just not compensated because so many teams have been burned paying a running back big money, and then the next 2 seasons he's injured, right? Like we saw it with Christian McCaffrey, we saw it with Saquon Barkley. We're seeing it, kind of with Saquon Barkley right before he signs his big. Le'Veon Bell had his crazy holdout and then just trash. Like, these teams that were paying the running backs big money, they paid for it in a negative way. 5 years ago, Adrian Peterson signed this massive $50 million a year contract, and nobody's eclipsed it since. And that was a long time ago. Running backs now are actually making less than they did back then, and the salary cap has gone up $100 million in that time frame, which is insane. So what is your philosophy? What is your take on the running back situation? Is it really easier just to find Isaiah Pacheco in the 6th round and develop him? What's your philosophy on that, and kind of how do you see this playing out in the future? Because it's become like it's such a huge media thing like this last week.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I kind of see it from both sides. I think both sides can make legitimate arguments, but I'm kind of shying on the side of the players here. I think it's a position that historically, if you look back on it, good teams, some of the best teams had really good running backs, and they paid them market value for those guys. And so I think we're getting to a point where I like the idea, and I get when you have 3-4 guys, we have these committees of running backs in house now, where it's not just one guy getting 30 touches a game. You're splitting that up. Because of that, you're reducing injury. You're reducing the impact an individual player has. But when you got like a guy like Austin Eckler, who is seeing the ball more than, everybody on your roster, minus the superstar wide receivers that you guys are paying a buttload of money. I
He
think we
still
need to
gets
start
way
looking
more
at
touches,
it.
right?
That's what I'm saying.
He's still
Like
getting way more touches.
I feel like, yeah, if you're impacting the game, I think we need to start moving away from just the position, the value that the position group gets, and more of your impact on the team. I do not think a guy like Austin Eckler should be getting paid less than a backup quarterback. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. On a day-to-day basis, you're impacting the game a lot less. So I think we need to start looking at it more as, oh, you play this position, you're going to get this amount of dollars, as more of, oh, your impact on this team. I don't care what position you play. If you're going to impact my team, you're going to bring the best out of me. Then I think the team should be compensating that. Now that's just kind of my philosophy. I think these guys put a lot into their craft. I think it is a lot harder to win without a solid running game. But you look at it with like a receiver room. You got 3 guys making real money. And sometimes that third receiver is making a lot more money than your number one running back, when the target share, the touches share doesn't add up. So like, I think that math needs to end up catching up. I think this is I don't get it. I want these guys to get paid, because you're now ostracizing some of the best athletes we have in the game. If we continue to do that, we're going to lose some of these great athletes choosing to go play baseball, choosing to play basketball, where they're compensated more for the work they put in, as opposed to coming and being a number 2 back on a Super Bowl football team. You're going to see that happen more and more if we keep, if this league keeps punishing these guys for playing a position that they play. And that's what I look at it as. I think it's, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. The math needs to start mathing.
So in terms of like the first part of my question being like, running backs, like, should you punt running backs to the end of the draft? I mean, the track record of draft picks in the 5th round who go on to have like pretty good careers, kind of low. Typically it looks like the best place to draft a running back has been in the 2nd and 3rd rounds. I'm just going to read off 2022 to 2019, like running backs in that range. And then you can kind of make your own assumptions about, are these starting caliber running backs, or are these guys, more backups type of situation. So like, round 2 of last year was Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, James Cook. Round 3, Rashad White, Tyrion Davis, Brian Johnson Jr. And then you start looking at, the 5th and 6th round guys. You're looking at Jerome Ford, Kyron Williams, Kevin Harris, Tyler Beatty. And, just take a look at like the drop off of talent there going into 2021. Running backs that were drafted last season, last season, 1st round, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams. And then in those 5th and 6th rounds, Kenneth Gainwell, Elijah Mitchell, Gary Brightwell, Larry Roundtree. 2020, for 2nd and 3rd rounds, DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon, Antonio Gibson, Keyshawn Vaughn, right? And then, 5th and 7th rounds is, I'll start at the 4th. So Joshua Kelly, Michael P. Ryan, Anthony McFarland, DJ Dallas. I'm just seeing like this massive drop off in talent once you get outside the third round. And these aren't guys like I don't want Joshua Kelly leading my backfield in carries, right? Like I think he's turned into a quality back after some time, but I don't want DJ Dallas getting 20 touches a game. Like I don't want that, right? Like I feel like there is enough value in drafting a running back high enough if you got a fifth round or a fifth year option on a running back that allows you to franchise tag that player at 10 million a year, which is kind of the max you want to pay this running back market. And the reason I read off all of those different types of players is I can't see any of those players that are on their team that are their teams are winning because of them, right? Like when was the last time you looked at a Super Bowl and said, "Oh, they made it to the Super Bowl because they had a great run game"? Like you never hear about it anymore. The last one I can think of, 2014 Seattle, right? Like that was the last time I can think of a team that made it because of their strong rushing game. Because if you look at the last 10 seasons, right? Like Kansas City, Philadelphia, they didn't make it for their run game. The Rams under Cooper Kupp, right? And the Bengals, okay, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, and Kansas City and San Francisco. San Francisco was more like I can't think of the running back that they made it with, right? Like the way that teams are built now is that the run game is really a small part of the offense, and it's needed to drag the games late and control the clock and being able to run the ball in the playoffs does provide you success, but it's not the reason for your success. And so these running backs who are getting injured after getting paid these massive contracts, like it bites more teams than it does anything else. Like it hurts them. So I get the need and the want, and these players are exceptional athletes. But if you have a really good offensive line and a good enough running back that can help keep the running game alive, that's all you need to win football games. And it sucks for the players because I think there's some phenomenal athletes, and the Chargers were heavily reliant on Austin Eckler last season because he was their only healthy piece. But at the same time, like I can't bring myself to paying a running back because if you lose Austin Eckler and your odds are that you're going to lose him for a considerable amount of time because of the position he plays, then that's the reason he's not getting paid. So it's just like it's a fine line there. And one of the final things I'll say about, because feel like I've been talking a lot, is I saw something on Twitter that was an easy fix to fix the running back market. And the answer was make running backs not part of the salary cap. Because if they're not part of the salary cap, then teams might be more willing to pay them more money and pay them their value, which is kind of an interesting thought to it. Any thoughts on final thoughts on the running backs and kind of what's been going on there?
I guess just that there's multiple ways to look at it. I think you made some valid points. I just think we see left tackles, right tackles, great receivers get paid money and not, cripple their teams too. So it's like, but I guess to your point, you do see teams win because of their offensive line play, win because of their superstar receiver play. I guess I get that. I think most recently, like, think about the impact Christian McCaffrey to the Niners made. Like he really took that offense that was struggling before he got there and really turned it into one of the most exciting things that second half of the stretch. And now they got plagued with some horrible quarterback luck. But they were on pace to really make a showing through the rest of the playoffs, and then just had some bad luck. But I don't know. I think you could, if played the right way, schemed the right way, you got some absolute playmakers at the running back position. I just don't think they've been on, you had McCaffrey, that guy I'm talking about, buried in Carolina for so long. Jonathan Taylor not getting any type of help in Indianapolis. I think that's a guy you could build around. I think there's some guys out there. I just don't think with this narrative going on, I think it's going to be a long battle for them. And I don't think that they might not never get paid what they think they deserve. And I kind of think they deserve
what they
to
do
be paid
deserve.
more.
I mean, they deserve the money, right? Like what they're
Yeah.
doing is exceptional. Like what Nick Chubb is doing for the Cleveland Browns offense, he is their offense. Like it runs through them. Their entire scheme is all based around his skill sets. But I mean, you lose him and your entire offense is gone. Like, could you imagine if the Browns lost Nick Chubb, how bad they would be without Kareem Hunt there, like that. And that is the most injured position in the NFL. So for you to put all your eggs in that basket, that's a scary. Look at the Titans when Derrick Henry is healthy and when he is not. And you're basing everything on him, and players get more injured as the season goes along. They slow down as the season goes along. They don't run as hard as the season goes along, right? And for you to put all of that
put like
weight,
every position group though.
but it's different because other
like
position
certain
groups
guys
don't take the same types of beatings. There is one other position that does it. The linebackers. Linebackers are always the leaders of the defense. In every defense, every who's making the defensive calls, 99% of the time it's the middle linebacker in the middle of the field. Think about from the leadership aspect, think about from the pass coverage aspect, think about from the run defense aspect. Like linebackers are sorely underpaid as well. Nobody talks about them, and they take just as much contact because they're the ones colliding with running backs. All right. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about Isaiah Pacheco. So Isaiah Pacheco,
I'm over it.
Yeah. Isaiah Pacheco finished with 170 carries, 830 yards, 4.9 yards per carry, averaging just under 50 yards per game, 5 touchdowns, and he was also lightly used as a receiver in the run game. Most of that work goes to Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon ended up having 9 receiving touchdowns last year, 56 receptions. So they've got their true running back, and they've got their third down back who's going to be catching passes out of the backfield. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has become the forgotten player in that crowd. Likely going to hit free agency next year. Wasn't awarded a 5th-year contract, and has actually been like a pretty major disappointment for them. I still believe they do have Ronald Jones. No, they have LaMichael Pirine. So LaMichael Pirine is going to be their big back. It's a really good running back room. It doesn't have a true RB1. It's got really good role players. As we kind of close off this part of the episode of the offense, what are your thoughts on Isaiah Pacheco and how the Chiefs utilize their running backs?
Yeah, I think you've seen they think they hit a home run with Isaiah Pacheco, and I think he does a lot of things for you. Obviously, he plays his role, but he's one of those spark plugs that you can't have too much of. Every time he's making a play, he's excited. He gets other people excited. Even if he's on the sideline, he gets excited for his guys. So that's one of those like locker room presences that you want to build around. I like the addition of Jerick McKinnon. You get another pass catching back added to that trio. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has not been used as a pass catcher all that much at this level, but he's definitely capable. I think having 3 guys who could all catch the ball from the backfield with the offensive genius mastermind pulling the strings and Andy Reid, I think you're going to see some 2-back sets. What they end up doing, I can't really speak on, but I think you could definitely see some 2-back sets. And I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire I think they like LaMichael Pirine for, big sets.
Goal line carries.
I think you're going to see Edwards-Helaire get plenty of goal line carry, short yard, like the 3rd and 2s. Maybe not like I need a yard, got to have it. So maybe you'll get a little Michael P. Ryan. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a lot stronger of a runner than both Isaiah Pacheco and McKinnon, especially in short yardage situations. So I think he's still going to have a role. But they love Isaiah Pacheco. That's good. He's kind of taken a hold of that position, and I think they like just his versatility, his ability to do a little of everything. I don't think he's really a running back. I think he's just a receiver that they play, but that they line up next to or behind Patrick Mahomes.
And then we'll close off like Travis Kelce. I don't think we need to speak about that too much. Travis Kelce is probably going to be part of that 99 club for the Madden ratings that came out this week. We should probably hear about that tomorrow because there's no way he's not. He's such an exceptional player at his position. He blocks, he run after the catch, makes terrific catches. Like he is he might even be more important to the Chiefs offense than Patrick Mahomes is, just for everything, all the attention that he draws away from the rest of the offense. So they use him. I mean, we know that Andy Reid loves to use misdirection, and he's usually at the center of a lot of that misdirection, whether he's the decoy man in that, or whether they're using misdirection to get him the ball in space. Like they do a terrific job of using him as the ultimate chess piece. He's kind of like their queen. If Patrick Mahomes is the most important player on the offense, Travis Kelce is what drives the offense forward. Talking a little bit about their offensive line, last year they finished with a top 10, potentially top 5 offensive line. They have Donovan Smith there now. They have Jawan Taylor on the right side. Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith might be the best interior group in the NFL. I know you were talking a little bit about Donovan Smith maybe not playing quite as well as he did last season. But, I mean, it's really hard to make the case for that when you've got a statue behind you in Tom Brady who's lost any sense of mobility. And he's still a really, really good left tackle in the NFL. Jawan Taylor's kind of the young piece on that side. I think it's a better offensive line than it was last year. I'll take Donovan Smith over Orlando Brown. Give me your thoughts on the offensive line. Talk a little bit about Travis Kelce and your final thoughts on this offense.
Yeah, I think we got plenty on Travis Kelce. I think he's the biggest walking mismatch you guys have that's in the league right now as far as offensive skill players. He could do whatever you need him to do. A tremendous player, and he makes everybody around him better. Another guy, backing him up, entering his third year, who that team is very, very high on, is Noah Gray. Also, great blocker. Also, kind of a forgotten piece because Travis Kelce does get so much attention that he could definitely slip behind some linebackers and make some plays for that Chiefs offense as well. Looking at the offensive line, I think you nailed it. That interior was scary last year before they had any snaps together. Went to a Super Bowl last year. Going to ride all of that momentum. One more year under their belt playing together. I think they're going to pick off right where they left off last year. And that was they're going to step right in game one and be smooth. I think from the interior. Losing both of your tackles, I think, is significant. It's probably the biggest roster change we have on this Chiefs team. But I don't think they lost much. You got Taylor, who's an ascending player, young. You still got Yang, who's entering his 4th season. I think they got another tackle in like the 3rd or 4th round as well. So you got some depth. And then you got Donovan Smith,
they have Prince
who is a solid. Okay, yeah. And I think you got Donovan Smith. You're adding another with those young tackles in place. You need some veteran presence. I think he brings you that. I was just talking last year. He probably had one of his least impressive seasons as a pro. He did give up 6 sacks. I get that Tom Brady's not as mobile as he was, but he led the league in holding penalties. Had 7 of them, and he missed 4 games. So getting older, not coming off a great year, new scheme. A lot of new. Blocking for Patrick Mahomes is easy if you just came from protecting the corpse of Tom Brady the last couple of seasons. So I think they're going to be fine. I guess all I will say is all it takes for an offensive line, I know it's 5 pieces, but one weak link is all it needs to absolutely disrupt an offensive line. And I think the Chargers saw that firsthand last year, even with Rashawn Slater going down with injury early in the year. You had Jamari Sawyer came in, played phenomenal. I think with what he was expected to do in his rookie season, came in, played great. You had Corey Linsley playing at all pro level when he was healthy. Zion Johnson had a bumpy start to his rookie year, but started to figure it out. And then you saw a career defining season from Trey Pipkins at right tackle. All of that was dragged down by probably one of the worst offensive lineman performances I've seen all year. And we got that out of Matt Filer last year. 4 great pieces. That 5th one dragged everybody down, and that was a big part of the reason why Justin Herbert was the most pressured quarterback last season. So I think those 5 are a lot better than the 5 we rolled out for the most of the game because they don't have a Matt Filer.
They don't have a weak
if Donovan
player
Smith
on their offensive
doesn't
line.
gel, they don't have a weak link, but it all it takes is one guy have a bad year. Matt Filer was great 2021 and then fell off a cliff. It's not impossible, especially with so much new.
Let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. So gone is Frank Clark. He's no longer there. They still have George Karlaftis. They ended up bringing in Charles Omenihu, who played last year for San Francisco, had 7 sacks, really benefited from playing opposite of Nick Bosa. Carlos Dunlap is gone. George Karlaftis last year had 8 sacks as a rookie. That's pretty good production. Almost 50 total pressures last season. And he's an ascending player, somebody that I really liked in the draft class out of Purdue last season. And I think he's going to be one of the next big top pass rushers in the NFL because he's really, really good. And then Omenihu was a rotational player for the 49ers last season, had 62 pressures himself. Overall, I think that when you look at like Frank Clark and the drop-off that he started having at the later stages of his career last year, and you're replacing that with a 26-year-old Charles Omenihu and a 23-year-old George Karlaftis, there's a lot of room for that group to grow overall. And they still have Mac Dana there. They drafted Felix Anudike-Asmua, who was really, really good for Kansas State last year. They've got a really good, strong edges out there that can really rush a quarterback, and they really do it in power, right? So they're not the beat you off the edge. They're the run through you and really collapse the pocket type of pass rushers. Chris Jones is probably the second best interior defender in the NFL. I think at this point in his career, he's probably better than what you're going to be getting out of Rams defensive tackle. What's his name?
Aaron Donald.
So I think he's probably surpassing Aaron Donald at this point in his career. Nothing against Aaron Donald. I just think that Chris Jones is still ascending, and Aaron Donald has probably plateaued of what he is if he hasn't taken a step back. They've had and always had really big defensive tackles. Derek Notty's huge. Danny Shelton, who's kind of been a journeyman, played for the Patriots, played for the Browns. He's one of those 350-pound heavy interior guys that are kind of unmovable. It's a really, really good interior group that, because especially since Notty and Chris Jones have played together for so long, and Chris Jones is one of those few interior pass rushers who really actually gets a lot of pressure on the quarterback, as well as be extremely disruptive up the middle for clogging rushing lanes. So like he's really, really good. And we've had to play him twice a year for the last 6, 7, 8 years. And we just know how good he can be and how disruptive he is for the Chiefs defense.
Yeah. I think this defense is going to be great. I think Charles Omenihu was a huge addition in the offseason. I think Chris Jones and Derek Notty, some of the 2 best interior duos that I think we have in the league, and then George Karlaftis, a rising star. What I really like about just those 4 I think you mentioned it, just the rushing style of Aminahu and Karlaftis, big guys who could beat you with power. You can play both of those guys on the inside. So it's going to give Spagnuolo a lot of creativity on how he wants to, hide his fronts, get after quarterbacks. Mike Dana is as good as a rotational third pass rusher as you could hope for. And then they went heavy in the draft. You mentioned Felix Anuduke, their first round pick. They also added BJ Thompson later in the 5th round. And Danny Shelton might not even, make this roster. They went and got another big D tackle in the 6th round in Keandre Coburn. So got a lot of a solid mix of vets with young guys. I think because of their skill set, I think Spagnuolo is going to have a lot of fun being able to disguise his pass fronts, especially because he has a really good up and coming secondary to bail them out if they can't get home. So I'm honestly kind of dreading playing these guys. Offense was never an easy task, and now they're gearing up to have a really solid defense this time around, and I think that should terrify most teams.
They also have a really, really good linebacker room. Nick Bolton has really come in on his own, like as a rookie, and now they go and they've been adding some really athletic running backs in the draft. They ended up bringing over Drew Tranquil, who for us was exceptional for us last season. Like we were really lucky to go from Kaiser White to Drew Tranquil last year, because Drew Tranquil is really good in coverage. He's really instinctive, and he's going to be their 3rd linebacker. So he's not even going to be in every down. He was a full-time starter for us last season. Really kind of one of the most important players on our defense last year. And for us to lose him and go to, the Chiefs, that we're going to feel that pain at some point during the season, because I think Drew was an exceptional player for us. He's going to play their special teams reps. Like that's how stacked they are at linebacker, which is insane. Nick Bolton was one of the league leaders in total tackles last year. Really kind of become their team leader, not named Chris Jones. And then you got guys like Willie Gay. You've got Leo Chanel, who was, one of the top linebackers in the draft last year. I mean, there's 5 guys here that could start, and I would feel comfortable with all 5 of them, not including some of their bigger depth guys. We know about Cole Christensen, who's been kind of one of our practice squad guys, who's jumped back and forth from our practice squad to our 53-man lineup week in, week out throughout his short career. I mean, the linebackers mixed with this really strong defensive front. I mean, it's kind of unfair how good this defense can be just up the middle and in those passing lanes right in the middle there. So they got some dogs there. Anything you want to say about their linebackers?
Yeah, just kind of like that. It's super overloaded. I mean, I'm looking at like Cole Christensen, Jack Cochran, guys who, Cole Christensen was playing a rotational role for us like 2 seasons ago, and now he is number 6 on their depth chart. I think they're just going to, it's so frustrating because you're going to have a great offense. They're going to have a great defense. And then you're going to get guys like Drew Tranquil and Leo Chanel showing out on special teams. Like this team gets better each and every year. They've started with very little.
So well.
They're very good. I mean, and that's what keeps good organizations afloat. Building internally, and adding pieces where, when you do miss, and then you get to a point where you're missing very little and you have 3, you basically, they could roll out. I feel like the Chiefs B team could make
they would not finish last.
They wouldn't finish last. I think there's better teams than
the NFL.
The 20. Yeah, yeah, that's all I gotta say about that.
That's
really,
wild
really
to think about. Their B team
core
would win at least 1 game.
I really think so. Yeah, if not a couple.
I mean, just look at some of these young guys.
I like those guys a lot more than like the Lions.
Like, let's think about it like this. Like, I love that you said B team. So Mike Dana, Felix Azumoa would be your starting edge defenders. Danny Shelton and Keandre Coburn would be in the middle. Okay, probably a little weak there. But then you look at like linebackers like Leo Chanel, Jack Cochran, Drew Tranquil is technically a backup for them. Jalen Watson, who had that pick 6 against us in the first game at cornerback. Deion Bush and Mike Edwards, who have been starters before. Josh, like it's not a good defense, but you can crawl through a couple games with that lineup if you absolutely had to for injury. Like, that's like one of those teams that they rest all their starters in week 18 and they somehow ink out a win still. Like that they could do that.
Yeah. It's frustrating. I can't wait for this
Even
team
on their offensive line, like Prince Winogo, Lucas Niang, Darius Kennard, Austin Reeder, Nick Allegretti. Like, I think we've seen that lineup before. We had to have. It's just wild.
Yeah,
like they're a complete roster through and through.
they're legit, and that's why this last half a decade they've been so competitive year in and year out. And they're entering this year as the Super Bowl favorites, and they should look. This roster as a Chargers fan is just frustrating to go through.
I'll let you close it out with the secondary: Trent McDuffie, Justin Reid, Brian Cook, who's going to be their starter at free safety, letting go of Juan Thornhill, L'Jarius Sneed. I touched on Mike Edwards, Jalen Watson. Give me your thoughts on the secondary. I think this is still kind of one of their minor weaknesses because I still don't think that they have a true, lockdown corner, but they're good enough in the back end, I think.
Yeah. I really like L'Jarius Sneed. I think if he can put one more season together like he did last year, I would definitely get him into I think that will start getting him into that true number one type of conversation. Looking at just like the sophomores on that secondary: Trent McDuffie, Brian Cook, Jalen Watson, Nas Johnson. Who else did they draft? Josh Williams. Like, they have so many young guys who all played really well for him. Trent McDuffie, I think, is a stud as your slot guy. I hear a lot of talk about Jalen Watson coming in as a starter on the outside. They still got Justin Reid, so I think you probably have a better fit playing Justin Reid as that free and having Brian Cook come kind of play that rover kind of strong safety role that John Johnson was playing. But either way, like I think it's a young group. I definitely think it has a lot to prove. But with the pieces in place and how they performed in just their rookie season, I think there's a lot to expect from those guys. And I think it's going to be sooner rather than later when those sophomores, McDuffie, Brian Cook, Jalen Watson, that building with having that many guys all in the same position, all in the same age, that is something scary to build around. And it's those types of decisions that have kept this team so competitive for so long.
It's really difficult to like just look at the Chiefs' entire roster and just think, man, these guys are built for a long time. Like, they have drafted so well. They've got three cap hits of over 20 million. So Patrick Mahomes this year, his cap hits 40 million, which is huge. Chris Jones, 28 million. Joe Thuney, 22 million. And from there's a huge drop off. I mean, you want to look at contracts and like steals, like Travis Kelce this year is going to be paid 11, 12, 13 million dollars. He counts for 14 mil against the cap. Like, this team is really built to be good for a long, long time. And the Chargers are built really for one more year. Like, this is their last year. They're gonna have to go through a cap correction year or two. This is really they put all their chips in. They structured contracts in a way that is going to be bad for them in the future, because they think that they're in a window and they can win now. The Chiefs were able to be as good as they were, and they didn't have to sacrifice the future to do it. They gave Patrick Mahomes this huge contract, and it was very team friendly, which makes me really interested to see in the next few weeks. We should be seeing the Justin Herbert contract come out. What is it like? Are we able to compete with them this year? Do you think we have the pieces, the team, and that's kind of probably be the more important way to phrase it? Do we have the team to beat and compete and, go toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and the Chiefs? And I'm talking about the whole thing, right? From the coaching to the world class medical team to the stars.
Yeah, I think if you just look at it player to player, organization to organization, no, we're not even close. I don't even think we're even in the little brother conversation. I think we're like distant second cousins at this point. We just live very close to each other, and there's not a whole lot to expect coming from Las Vegas. I think we could, if we have a similar year with the struggles we had last year. I don't think it's far fetched to believe that we could become the third best team in our own division with, getting leapfrogged by the Denver Broncos. I think that's a possibility. As a fan, you got to hope like something's got to give. We've been so close with worse teams so many times. So you got to think like it's like the law of averages. Eventually we're going to catch Mahomes and Andy Reid on a bad day, right? You got to hope so. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what keeps me waking up every day. It's what makes me excited that, rookies just showed up to training camp. I think it's very, very early. I'm always hopeful this time of year. But if you want like an objective, honest answer, I think we're not even close to being on the Chiefs level. And I think that's less on us and more just in awe of what the Chiefs have built over there in Kansas City.
Yeah, they are so good. The Chiefs are not just good because of the players that they have, but it's a culture thing, right? Like that's the hard thing to build. That's what every team strives for is culture. And the Chiefs have built through Patrick Mahomes, and even before Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I think the Chiefs have won the division every year since like 2012. We have beat them like twice. The last time we beat them was the Phillip Rivers, Mike Williams, game winner. Like that was the last time we beat the Chiefs. We have not beat the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes under center. Matter of fact, I saw a crazy stat. Did you know Patrick Mahomes has never lost a road AFC West game?
Did Herbert not beat?
No, he's never beat him.
He's never lost a road AFC West game? That's
Patrick
crazy
Mahomes,
that one game was in. Go ahead.
Yeah. What one game? What game are you talking about?
No, just it's crazy that the one game during that span that we won was in Arrowhead.
Yeah, so wild, but Patrick Mahomes has never lost on the road in the AFC West. That's a crazy statistic. He's been in the league for like 6 years now, and he's never lost in his own division on the road. He's lost at home, but never on the road.
Didn't we?
You're looking for the game that we beat him. You're looking for it. And I think he was out that game.
Oh, because you said, yeah, maybe not Mahomes, but Herbert's 2-4 against the Chiefs.
Is he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we split in 20. We won the second game in 2021. We won the second game of his rookie year, and then the first game of his sophomore year.
The first game in his sophomore year, we didn't win that game, did we?
Yeah, January 3rd, 2021, and then September 26th, 2021.
Okay, so we have one
threw-
just not on the road.
Herbert threw 7 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So and then he threw an interception in every 4 of his losses. So there's the recipe. Don't turn the ball over against the Chiefs. Justin Herbert needs to average 3.5 touchdowns, and you beat the Chiefs. That's it. Simple.
September 26, 2021, we won 30-24. And then January 3rd, 2021, 38-21. We beat them in January in 2021?
Yeah, I think that was the game you were talking about. They were resting everybody.
Yeah.
And it meant
Patrick
something
Mahomes
to us.
didn't play that game. And I think the 2021 was when he hurt his knee, when he dislocated his knee, and we didn't play him that game either.
I mean, what's more important is that we've lost 3 straight to the Chiefs, 2 of those being at home. So, and one of those we saw in person. So, we're due.
Yeah, we're due. But, more than anything, somebody is due to win the AFC West away from the Chiefs. Like, somebody has to take that from, that's such a ridiculously long time. Like, that's on par with the Patriots from, 2005 to 2023 or however long it took them before they finally lost I'm ready for something new. And I think that this is just the 1 year that we're going to be able to do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. If we're gonna strap ourselves and make us not competitive for future seasons, why not this year? Let's just get it done.
Closing remarks, Zach.
I'm gonna go after this. Put all my money on the Chargers to win the Super Bowl because apparently we believe in miracles over here.
Last year I put money down on the Super Bowl and I lost.
Yeah, we're not talking about last year. We're moving forward. Let's go. It's training camp right around the corner.
To kind of close things out, I did get all the magazines mailed. I got yours mailed. I got your grandma's mailed. Everybody's magazine has been mailed. I've got maybe like 50 copies left. They're still for sale. PDFs are totally free, $15. I was trying to go to on Saturday. We're having a Chargers out on the bay. I forget what the name of the event's called. I'm not going to be there because I'm going to be working because my job sucks. But outside of that, if you guys do want a copy, let me know and I'll get that out to you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you guys later.